Hello, everyone, and happy Groundhog Day. Here's hoping that the groundhog does not see his shadow. As the story goes, if Punxsutawney Phil in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, does not see his shadow, then we will have an early spring. If he does see his shadow, we will have 6 more weeks of winter. The sad fact is, either way, we will have 6 more weeks of winter. That can't change. It just depends on how severe it is. So it's a little thing that people like to play. He's probably not even right half the time, but it's a fun thing to do. So anyway, we are on session IJ11 today in your notebooks, and your I can statement is I can listen for the relationship between verb tense and voice. So we're talking about verb tense, and we're also talking about voice. Verb tense is something you probably don't hear a lot of. Um, and all I'm going to say about that is you need to make sure that if something is happening in the past, it stays in the past. In other words, you cannot say the man walked to the store and he buys an ice cream. If he walked to the store, he's already done it and he's already bought the ice cream. It's already happened. So you can't say he buys, you'd have to say he bought. That's all verb tense is, matching up your tenses with what's going on in your situation. And we will talk about voice. I'm going to show you the checklist that I had up yesterday as well. You will need to use that checklist as you're looking at your stories today. They should be finished. Your finished stories are being shared, if you're in class, with a partner. If you are not in class, there's not a lot I can do to help you because you need to be with a partner to do this. And not knowing who has things done and who's at what point in what's going on, it's hard for me to say, okay, well, this person is your partner. I really need you to be in class. And when you work with your partner, you're going to complete the peer editing form. So let's start today with the active passive voice. And this is a quick slide presentation that talks a little bit about that. You've heard me say active a lot. The active voice is the affirmative, the strong, the powerful voice of saying, this is what's happened. This is not what may have happened or would have happened or something happened to it. You're being more assertive about it. So in this presentation, we'll look at a little bit of both so that you have a clear understanding. You should be writing your social issues story in active voice. There should be no passive voice in your story whatsoever. So we're at the end of it. I apologize. Let's go back. Let's see if I can just jump to one. There we go. Using active and passive voice. This is not my presentation. I borrowed it from someone, but it looked pretty good, so there was no point in my making a new one. Active voice is used to show that the subject of the sentence is performing or causing the action. They're doing something. An example, LeBron threw the basketball before the buzzer. LeBron shot the basketball from the free throw line. LeBron scored 3 points. All of those are active. They're telling you what LeBron did. Passive voice is used when the subject is the recipient of the action. So now that we're not talking about LeBron, we're talking about the ball. LeBron still threw the ball, but now we're going to look at it from the ball's perspective. The ball was thrown by LeBron. Now the ball is the subject of the sentence, and LeBron is the object of the sentence, where before LeBron was the subject and the ball was the object. The basket was shot by LeBron. The score was made by LeBron. Those are not as powerful statements as LeBron threw the ball. I hope you can see the difference. The passive voice is just weaker. It puts you in a weaker position. Why does it matter? And I know I'm sure a lot of you wondering, what does it matter if it's strong or not? What I mean, just say it, just write it. But you want to be active. You want to be. It's like, imagine you're having an argument with your little brother or sister. Do you want to have a passive conversation with them, or do you want to win? If you want to win, you're going to use strong words. It's the same thing. When you're writing a piece that you want people to believe in, you want them to have confidence in you. And if you don't show that you have confidence in yourself through your writing, they won't be confident. Active voice is more direct and concise, and that's what you need in journalistic writing. Active voice is like watching LeBron play. If you were at the game, you wouldn't turn to your friend and go, "Oh, look, the ball was thrown by LeBron." No, you'd say, "Dude, look, LeBron threw the ball." Active voice. Most of the time, that's what you want to use when you're speaking, when you're writing. When would you want to use passive voice? Well, if you're really trying to hide something or you're hemming and hawing, let's say you broke a lamp and your parents come home and they want to know what happened. You say, "Well, the lamp was kind of broken when I threw the ball in the house." Or if you were proud of it, you'd go, "Yeah, I threw the ball and broke the lamp." Now, if you say, "I threw the ball and broke the lamp," that might not go over so well. But if you kind of pad it a little, "Yeah, it was broken because of this," kind of makes it a little bit softer. If you're trying to take some of that onus off of yourself, minimize your guilt, um, you don't want to lay a blame. But it's not a good way to. It's not a good way to write, and it's not a good way to speak. Um, you know it's passive when you see that double verb, and it's forms of the verb to be. That is am, is, are, was, were. Those words don't have a lot of space in journalistic writing. John baked the bread, active. The bread was baked by John. So you have that form of the verb to be, was, and we're talking about the bread. We're not talking about who baked the bread. We're talking about the bread being baked. It's more passive. Passive verbs. Just don't use them. Is kicked, had been kicked. Was kicked, is going to be kicked, is being kicked, will be kicked. You just don't want to sound weak. And that's what these words do. They make you sound weak. They make you sound unsure of yourself. So if we practiced this, and I'm not going to go through all of these, if you want to, you should be able to access this from the landing page. Louise made the chocolate cake. So who did something? Louise did. What did she do? She made the chocolate cake. So it's active. But if we say the chocolate cake was made by Louise, now the chocolate cake is the subject. Makes you want chocolate cake, doesn't it? Well, no, some of these you don't like cake, but that's okay. So now the chocolate cake was made by Louise. More words, says the same thing, not as impactful. If you went to a party and somebody made some incredible dip that you really liked, and they go, "Oh, well, who made this dip?" They wouldn't go, "Well, the dip was made by," they'd go, "So and so made the dip." Again, active voice. The travel agent advertised the package, or the package was advertised by the travel agent. We want to know what the travel agent did, not what the package did. The prom dress was hemmed by me, or I hemmed the prom dress. Oh, I hemmed the prom dress. That makes you sound like, oh, you really did it. You really know what you're talking about. You hemmed the prom dress. Awesome. So make sure that your writing is active. Do not use passive voice. Let's try to change a sentence here. Change this to active voice. The statue is being visited by hundreds of tourists every year. My books were stolen by someone yesterday. Are you thinking? These books had been left in the classroom by a careless student. Coffee is raised in many parts of Hawaii by plantation workers. The house had been broken into by someone while the owners were on vacation. Those are all very passive sentences. If you wanted to change them, you might say something like this. Hundreds of tourists visit the statue every year. Someone stole my books yesterday. A careless student left these books in the classroom. Plantation workers raise coffee in many parts of Hawaii. And someone broke into the house while the owners were on vacation. It's just a matter of putting that action up front. That's all it is. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If you need to review it, please feel free. Um, I just want to make sure that you are not using passive voice when you write your news stories. So let's go to this checklist. And once you have your final story, you want to look at this checklist again. This is the one we had yesterday. And you're going to look at it again and see if you've moved any of your not yets or starting tos to yeses. So if your lead was in the starting to category yesterday, have you rewritten it so that it's now a yes? If you haven't, why didn't you? If you know it's not ready, then fix it. So I want you to go through this checklist again because you need to make sure that you've done all of these things. In the Learn About It section, you're going to see the checklist again. So you don't need to worry about that. I probably won't even publish it for you. Under Think About It, these are some final stories. You might want to read them and see how they're written to see if your writing is as active and aggressive as the writers of these pieces. I'm not going to read them for you. They are in session 11, Think About It. You should have your finished story today. So let's go to Evidence of Learning. Here you're going to submit the final piece. That's the one you did in a PDF on Thursday where you wrote the first 2 or 3 paragraphs of your story. Now your entire story should be there. If you were in class, you were in a breakout room, you had some peer editing. Your peers read your story and gave you some feedback on it so that you could then fix it before you submit it. You do not have to take the suggestions of your peers. They are only suggestions. But a lot of times they're very good suggestions and you should probably pay attention. They might say, well, if you said it like this instead of that, it might be stronger. Well, it might. Try it. If you don't like it, put it back the other way. But try it. That's why we do peer edits. You're checking for everything, including spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And once you have it exactly the way you want it, you're going to submit this as a PDF. So let me publish so you can see the student view. Oh, it's locked until tomorrow. I apologize. So you can't see the student view right now. But you know it's going to have a submit button at the top. You're going to upload your PDF and then submit again. Also, I want to see that you've checked whatever you have over here. Every one of these items. Did you check the lead? Did you check your transitions? Endings. Read this, ladies and gentlemen. Do some work, spend some time. You're going to need to be stronger writers when you get to high school. That's why we're doing this now. And for those of you who think, well, I'll never need this, well, you will. Believe it or not, you will. And you can choose to believe me or you can choose not to believe me. But at some point, this is going to come in handy. All right. So that's really all you have today is to get that story finished up and edited. If you know somebody who is in one of my classes, you can do a peer edit with them, even if you haven't come to class. If you don't know anybody, well, maybe that's why you should have come to class. Do you think? Watch out for Wednesday. Wednesday, I will have something in the catch up room. So if you have missed some assignments, you'll be able to redo those or turn them in late. Make sure that you are checking your email. At least 2 iReady lessons a week. That's a grade now. And reading. And that's really all I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to get this story done and turned in. This is a big grade, and I do expect that you will do well on it. If you have any questions, feel free to come to class. T2 out.